You want to live cheap in the western U.S. in 2025? Let's cut the fluff. You can still do it on $1,500 a month if you pick your town right. That number isn't random. It's what over 50% of Social Security recipients live on every month. And with inflation hovering near 3.5%, rents surging in major cities, and housing affordability hitting a 40-year low, it's getting harder than ever to make that money stretch. But out west, away from the coasts and tourist traps, there are still pockets of sanity where $1,500 covers rent, groceries, utilities, gas, and even a few dinners out. We're talking real towns, not ghost towns, places with hospitals, decent internet, grocery stores, and people who still say hi to you at the gas pump. Whether you're retired, working remotely, or just done with $2,500 studio apartments and $7 lattes, this list is your roadmap to breathing room again. Here are 10 towns in the western United States where you can actually live comfortably, not survive but live, on $1,500 a month in 2025. Starting at number 10. 10. Lusk, Wyoming. Let's start in the high plains of Wyoming. Lusk, WI. Population around 1,500 people as of 2020, Niobrara County's seat. Remote, but real. If you don't mind wide skies, few neighbors, and a cattle ranching backdrop, Lusk gives you a shot. The cost of living in many parts of rural Wyoming is well below national average. Home values, tax burdens, utility costs all tend to be low. Because Lusk is so small and agriculture or ranching is the industry, wages are low too. So local rents are depressed to match. While I couldn't find a perfect one-bedroom average rent number for Lusk, you can reasonably expect a decent one-bedroom or small home rental for $400, $600 in many very rural Wyoming towns. Even if it were $700, that leaves $800 out of your $2,500 for everything else. Now you gotta budget for heating in winter. Cold months will spike your energy. But property taxes are low, and Wyoming has no state income tax, which helps your take-home stretch further. Also, because it's so remote, many things like groceries or specialty goods might cost a bit more relative to urban hubs, transport markup, but local staples will still be cheap. If you live frugally, share utilities, maybe drive a high-mileage older car, eat locally, you could scrape by here on $100 or $500. The trick is accepting limited services, long travel for healthcare or big shopping trips, and very slow pace. But if someone asked me, could you live on $2,500 in the West? Try a place like Lusk. It's one of the few where it might work in practice. 9. Oroville, California. Yep, California sneaks into the list, but in a very odd, overlooked corner. Oroville, CA, Butte County. Population $20,000 as of 2020. Because of its relative remoteness from major coastal metro zones, Oroville has depressed housing and lower property costs compared to big California cities. After the devastating Camp Fire 2018 displaced many people, some moved into nearby towns like Oroville, pushing up demand, but also creating housing reuse and lower entry prices. The local economy leans on tourism, Lake Oroville, Feather River recreation, healthcare, retail, and services. Rental one-bedroom rates in many less desirable CA towns often span $600 and $900. In Oroville, you might find something around $650, $800 if you look hard, or share a modest house to bring per-person cost down. That leaves them $700, $850 for all other expenses. But keep in mind, your electricity and water bills may run higher. California utility costs tend to be premium, and wildfire insurance or elevated insurance costs might bite part of your budget. On the flip side, being in California gives you relatively better infrastructure, roads, internet, possible public transit, better access to healthcare than ultra-remote places. So if you adopt a frugal life, cook at home, avoid big commutes, and accept that you won't have many luxuries, Oroville might let you hit somewhere between $100 to $300 or $2,500 total. It's a gamble, but it's one of the rare California entries where your dollar might still count in 2025. 8. Green River, Wyoming. Next up, Green River, WI, a small town with industrial backbone, mining, energy, infrastructure, and a location advantage, not super remote, reachable. According to a list of 10 most affordable places to live in the West, 2025, Green River ranks number 9 among those studied with a median home value. $291,865 and rental costs in the mix for the region. That means while buying is not trivial, renting might be far more achievable. In many parts of Wyoming's smaller towns, a one-bedroom in a modest building or older duplex might go for $500, $700. If you can secure something in the $600, $700 range that allocates $800, $900 for everything else, food, gas, insurance, utilities, internet, etc. Wyoming is favorable because of no state income tax, relatively low property taxes, and moderate infrastructure costs, roads, power, in many rural counties. The downside? Energy bills in winter, transportation costs to major centers, and limited choices on entertainment, healthcare, and specialty goods. But Green River's proximity to regional hubs gives you a slightly easier logistics game. If you're lean, drive carefully, work remotely or in local industrial support, maintenance, trades, resource sector, and accept minimal luxuries, $2,500 here could cover basics plus a small buffer. It's not fancy, but it's functional. 7. Carson City, Nevada. No state income tax again, which helps if your income is fixed. Carson City, NV shows up in retirement affordability lists for the West, partly because it's the state capital, has better infrastructure, and yet remains far cheaper than its neighbor Reno or Lake Tahoe areas. While I don't see a clean $1,500 budget breakdown, Nevada's advantage is that you don't get taxed at the state level on your Social Security or retirement income, in many cases. Combined with relatively moderate housing on the periphery, you might find a one-bedroom unit for $700 to $900 depending on how far out you go. That leaves $600, $800 for all your other costs. If you live simply, used car, minimal travel, thrift grocery shopping. Medical, utilities, insurance will eat some. But in a state capital, you've got better access to medical services without huge travel burdens. If you're frugal, I believe you could carve out a life here on $7,500. Small, but possible. This one is riskier than some pure rural towns, but gives more safety and connectivity in exchange. 6. Roswell, New Mexico. Yes, we're stretching slightly outside what many think of as Western, but in many affordability lists, Roswell, NM, is ranked among the more affordable West-Southwest towns. In the 2025 10 Most Affordable Places to Live in the West study, Roswell ranks number 6, with median home value earns $126,060 and rental costs in that low to middle tier. That suggests that to rent a modest one-bedroom, you might pay in the $500, $700 range. So you'd still have $800, $1,000 left for food, utilities, transportation, healthcare, and so on. In Roswell, the cost of living is well below the national average overall. Housing, utilities, and local goods are all generally cheaper. Because New Mexico has relatively generous tax treatment for retirees and lower costs in many rural counties, your purchasing power tends to stretch further there. The drawbacks: limited job opportunities, weaker public transit, sometimes long drives to bigger hospitals or specialized care. You'll want to pick a neighborhood with safe roads, reliable water, electric, and decent internet. But in many realistic budgeting scenarios, cooking at home, minimal travel, modest lifestyle, $1,500 could get you by in Roswell with maybe a $100, $300 cushion if the unexpected doesn't hit, car repair, medical bill. Plus, New Mexico's weather is moderate, no brutal winters in many areas, and strong culture, which can make life richer without costing extra. All right, let's roll into the top 5 towns in the western U.S., where you can still live decently, even thrive, on about $1,500 a month in 2025. Now, if that number sounds tight, it is. Inflation's chewed through a lot of small-town affordability, but some pockets out west are still hanging on, especially if you don't mind slower living, a little dust, and knowing your neighbors by name. Let's go from number 5 down to number 1, keeping that same straight-shooting, data-backed style. 5. Burley, Idaho. Smack in the heart of southern Idaho, Burley sits right on the Snake River, population hovering around 12,000 now. This place has that Main Street never really changed since 1970 kind of vibe, but in a good way. Rent here? Still shockingly low. As of 2025, the average one-bedroom apartment runs about $640 a month, according to local housing trackers. That's practically a time capsule compared to Boise, where you'll pay double. With utilities around $160 and groceries about 8% cheaper than the national average, you're looking at roughly $1,380–$420 total living costs per month if you keep things modest, right on target. What keeps Burley livable isn't glamour, it's simplicity. It's surrounded by farmland and the Snake River, which means cheap produce, farmers markets year-round, and some of the best potatoes and beef prices in the West. Crime's low, unemployment's around 3.2%, and there's always seasonal work in agriculture or logistics. Winters are cold but short, and summers are mild enough to make river kayaking, camping, or fishing real weekend hobbies, not luxuries. For retirees or remote workers, Burley is like a hidden pause button on modern life. Clean air, low crime, and neighbors who wave even if they don't know you. It's not for people who crave nightlife, but for someone who values peace and that rare feeling that the world isn't rushing past. $500 goes a long way here. 4. Pendleton. Oregon, head to eastern Oregon, and you'll find Pendleton, a dusty but charming little city best known for its rodeo, woolen mills, and frontier history. Around 17,000 people live here, and locals say it's the kind of place where everyone still shows up to the county fair. What makes Pendleton pop up on these affordability lists is that, even in 2025, rent averages about $675–$725 for a one-bedroom, and utilities hover around $180–$200. Toss in some modest grocery shopping, Oregon food costs are only slightly above the national average, and you can live quite comfortably for around $1,400 to $1,450 monthly. Now, here's where Pendleton punches above its weight. No state sales tax. You save around 6 to 8% instantly compared to other Western states when you buy everyday stuff. Plus, for retirees, Oregon offers solid healthcare access with small-town convenience. The local hospital is well rated for general care, and you're only 3 hours from Portland for major specialists. The town's also known for surprisingly decent internet speeds, thanks to fiber upgrades that hit in 2024, which makes it a quiet haven for remote workers. The climate's dry, sunny most of the year, and crime rates are 20% below the state average. Pendleton feels like that frontier movie set that someone forgot to pack up, but with high-speed internet and Amazon delivery. For $1,500, you're not just surviving, you're living a relaxed, self-sufficient Western life. 3. Hawthorne, Nevada. Welcome to Hawthorne, the desert town with a military base, alien legends, and some of the cheapest rent west of the Mississippi. Tucked in Mineral County, Hawthorne is home to roughly 3,000 people, most connected to the Hawthorne Army Depot. It's remote, about halfway between Reno and Las Vegas, but that's exactly why it's so affordable. As of this year, rent for a small house or apartment runs about $700, and total living costs average $1,290 to $100 to $350 per month. That's including utilities, groceries, and a tank of gas or two. Now, locals swear the sunsets here are the best in the West. Desert skies that look like Mars and stars you can actually see. Groceries are brought in from nearby towns, so you won't find Costco prices, but with property taxes nearly 60% below the U.S. average and Nevada's zero state income tax, what you save more than offsets it. The town's got a strong veterans community, thanks to the base, and the nearby Walker Lake offers cheap weekend recreation, boating, fishing, or just cooling off when it hits 100-degree TAF. Oh, and yes, the old underground alien base under the lake rumor? Still alive and well. Whether you believe it or not, it's a fun local legend that keeps the tourists talking. If you're looking for pure affordability, peace, and a weirdly fascinating slice of desert Americana, Hawthorne will let you live under $1,500 without sacrificing comfort. 2. San Luis, Arizona. If you can handle heat that'll melt your flip-flops, San Luis is one of the most budget-friendly places in the western U.S. It's right on the border with Mexico. part desert outpost, part agricultural hub. Population's about 36,000 now, and despite rapid growth, costs haven't exploded yet. Rent for a one-bedroom averages $580, $620, utilities around $150, and groceries 12% below the U.S. average thanks to cross-border supply chains. Total, $1,250, $1,350 a month. Easy to hit if you don't live extravagantly. But here's the catch. Summer temperatures here are brutal. We're talking 110-degree feel plus for weeks, so your AC bill can spike fast. Still, San Luis makes up for it with low crime. Violent crime is 50% below national average. A strong sense of community and unbeatable proximity to affordable healthcare and services across the border in San Luis Rio, Colorado, Mexico. That means medical, dental, and even prescriptions can cost a fraction of what you'd pay stateside. For retirees or digital nomads on fixed income, that's a huge deal. Plus, Yuma's only 25 minutes away, with bigger stores and hospitals. In a time when most of the West feels out of reach, San Luis is that rare place where you can live cheaply, eat fresh, and still catch a desert sunset every night. All under $2,500. 1. Brigham City, Utah. Topping this list. Brigham City, Utah. One of those, why doesn't everyone move here kind of towns. It's small, about 20,000 people, tucked north of Ogden and known for being spotless, safe, and surprisingly affordable. The city's livability score in 2025 sits around 75/100, and that's not fluff. The data backs it. Rent for a one-bedroom is around $650–700, and your total monthly living cost averages $1,410, $1,450 depending on how fancy you get with groceries. Property taxes are light, healthcare access is solid, and crime rates hover 40% below the national average. For retirees, Brigham City is almost tailor-made. Low stress, clean air, no traffic, and great proximity to both Salt Lake City and the mountains. What's interesting here is how balanced it feels. Unlike many small towns, Brigham City has solid internet, good schools, and a stable local economy built around manufacturing and services, not boom-and-bust resource jobs. The community has a strong emphasis on volunteering, small business, and outdoor recreation. Birdwatching at the Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge is a local pastime, and winters are mild enough that heating costs don't crush your budget. Utah's utility rates are among the lowest in the region, which helps even more. All in, you can live a peaceful, connected, small-town life, with mountains in view and a clear conscience that you're not draining your wallet. For $1,500 a month, Brigham City doesn't just make it possible, it makes it comfortable.